about the next painting we're about to start. So I'm going to start a new painting if Jasper lets me. All right, baby, you gonna let Daddy paint now? You want dog food, right? Apparently he wants me to hold him while painting. So I'm gonna start Icarus now. All right, I gotta put him down because he's really heavy. All right, Jasper, you gotta let Daddy paint, okay? No. Whoo, he is not light. Okay, so I'm gonna start Icarus now, and I figure we're gonna start the whole process. You can see we have this giant white painting behind me here. And of course, as you know, what I like to do with all my paintings is start with the underpainting. So I'm gonna do something a little different this time. I'm actually going to use watercolor as my underpainting. And you might be going, wait a minute, you're an oil painter. How can you possibly use watercolor as your oil painting undercoat? Well, it's quite simple. Oil paints will bind to anything like acrylic or watercolors quite nicely. Other way around though, watercolors and acrylics will not bind to oil paint. So I know we'll go into all that on a later learning process. You guys don't need to know all about the whole bonding on a molecular level, all the science crap. You just want to see art on the canvas. So I'm going to use watercolor. We're going to start with doing the underpainting. And I'm going to be using watercolor this time around to do the underpainting. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with basically with the underpainting, I'm going to do a dark on the bottom. I think we're going to go with yellow in the middle and then a red up here at the top. Now, the great thing about abstract painting is that it can change no matter what we do. So, okay. So for the bottom, I think I'm going to use a raw umber and maybe a touch of black in there for the bottom. And then of course the middle, I'm just going to go with a straight cadmium yellow for the middle. And then the top, we're going to mix a little bit of alizarin crimson with some maybe, I don't know, why don't we try some burnt sienna? I don't know, we'll see what happens. Alrighty, so I guess the first step is we're going to start down at the bottom with the umber and the blacks. And it's going to take me a few seconds to mix up these colors. Okay, so since I'm basically just doing a quick underlay with watercolors, I'm not really using that good of a brush, basically just a cheap 98-cent chip brush because it's underpainting. It's just blocking everything in. So we're gonna thin these watercolors down pretty thin because we're actually just basically doing a wash with it. So I'm gonna put a little bit of layer of the raw umber on there. I'm going to do this really thin, like really, really, really thin. And I bet you would like me to adjust the camera so you can see. All righty, well, here we go. Man, that's a lot of real estate. And you can see that I'm really painting these things really, really, really thin. And you can actually see how thin I'm doing these watercolors as it is running down. Because I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a little bit of black in with that to darken it up. But the black, I'm actually going to take and divide this back in half and only do the black probably up to there. So there we go. So the black will mix into there, and then from this point up, it'll just be the brown. And again, since this is just the underpainting, it's not an exact science. It's just adding a little bit of underpainting to it, a little bit of tone and all that. And this will cause the painting to glow a little bit when it's actually finished. Oh, and Jasper has just returned. I wonder where Jasper has been out adventuring to. I'm sure he's about to pop around the corner and say hello to everyone. Because that's what he does. Hey, Jasper. And also with this, you don't have to make it a perfect streak of brown or a perfect streak of black. You kind of want the unevenness of the different shades of it. So it's okay that it's not a perfect line. Because nothing in life is perfect. I think that looks like about a straight line. Yeah. Let me step back and take a look, make sure I can see. Yeah, it's about close enough. Yeah, that's a close enough line. And the great thing about using watercolors as your underpainting, it dries as soon as the water evaporates. So the thinner you paint it, the quicker it dries. Whereas if you use an acrylic underpaint, you really do need to wait, I'll probably say at least a minimum of 3 days, because you need to make sure it's completely dry. If not, your oils will not dry properly, and you'll just end up having a mess. So I know what you're thinking to yourself. You're thinking, wow, is this thin oil paint really going to show up? It will actually. Or sorry, this thin watercolor is really going to show up, and it will actually. Besides, it gives the art historians something to x-ray in about 150 years. So it looks like I'm going to end up using just about this whole entire tube of watercolors, and it is, I don't know how many, not quite sure how many ounces it is, but it's That's a lot of real estate on that canvas. You know what? So while I'm doing the underpainting here, let's talk about the actual subject matter of the painting. So, if you haven't guessed from the name of the painting, it's going to be called Icarus. And you might be wondering, how in the world, or why in the world, would you want to paint the mythological story of Icarus? Because Lord knows everybody has painted it before. It's nothing new. It's like almost like an overdone subject matter sometimes. But as I'm breaking stuff in the studio, you also have to look at it this way. I think each and every one of us in our own way has a Icarus moment in our life. And we have to stop and think, because a lot of times we don't necessarily realize that we're having this Icarus moment, and yet we are, and that's how a lot of times we fail, or we basically fly too close to the sun and we end up perishing. And so what I find fascinating about the Icarus tale is that, you know, if you ask somebody about the story of Icarus, they automatically say, oh, that's the dude that flew too close to the sun because he was too arrogant to listen to his father, and he got all caught up in his life and the moment of things, so he didn't pay attention and he didn't learn from his own arrogance. And a lot of us will do that in our lives. We'll come across this moment to where we don't really listen to the warning signs. We just keep flying higher and higher and higher in the moment. And before we know it, that moment has destroyed us. Now, what's also fascinating about the Icarus story that a lot of people don't realize is that his father also warned him, don't fly too low to the water. In other words, at some point in your life, you do have to take flight. You can't stay on the ground. So we also have to be very careful about staying neutral in our lives, because we will also perish then. And full confession, this past year I've been doing a lot of reflection, and I have spent probably the past 14 years of my life flying too close to the water, to where I was stuck in a certain situation and I wasn't basically flying high enough. So that's what I'm mostly going to be concentrating on, is that, you know, it's all about moderation. We have to learn not to fly too high or fly too low. We need to learn balance. And it's all about balance. So also one important rule when you're doing really thin watercolor painting, you want to make sure that you get all the drips out, because the drips will really cause lines, and the lines will show up when you actually finish the painting. And if you want the lines there, it's great, because it's a great way to get your viewer to look at something that if you give them basically a paint line, which is almost subconscious that the viewer will see it and not even realize they see it, and their eyes will follow that drip line and not even realize they're doing it. So using drip lines in underpainting is a great way to control how the viewer will view your painting, because you kind of force them to look and view something without them even realizing they're doing it. Quite nice though. But in this particular one, since I don't want that to happen, I am eliminating all of my drip lines. All right, so I think we've got the bottom done. So now let's work on the yellow. Now for this one, I want the yellow to be the brightest, about right here, not quite in the middle, because I don't like doing things directly in the middle of a painting. It looks off to me. Some people like it. Some people are like, oh, it's okay to do that. I don't. And I'm back with some fresh water, and my cadmium yellow is ready to go. And same with this. This yellow is really bright. It is a really bright yellow. So we're going to go very thin with it, because it will literally overtake everything. So remember, this is roughly my center, so I want this to be off center. So right in here is going to be my main yellow. Oh look, there's those drips I was telling you about. That's all right. It's got a long way to go. All right, let's see here. So about roughly, you know what? That was a little high. You know what? Let's go. Yeah, we'll go here with it. That is a lot of real estate, isn't it? A lot of real estate. Yes. Let's paint a big painting, shall we? I mean, you can see how bright this yellow is. It's a really bright yellow. Okay, so the underpainting is basically done. So now we're looking at a canvas that has, well, 3 stripes on it. So tell you what, now this is pretty much all the progression I can make on the painting today, because I want to let this dry completely. I know watercolors dry within a matter of hours, but me, I'm very particular. So this is where we're stopping today. I'm gonna let this dry overnight, and then tomorrow I will come back and actually start laying in the painting. So tell you what, please hit that like, subscribe, and notification button so you can see part 2 of Icarus. All right, love you guys. Bye-bye.